Hello everybody and welcome back to the Daily Playbook. So I just covered Tampa Bay at Detroit in a previous video, so if you want to see more of that information, then go back and look for that one. But in this one we'll cover Houston at Seattle. And getting into the details of the Houston at Seattle game, you have Seattle favored on the money line with a spread of 3 points and a total line of 41.5. Seattle is one of the better teams in the league right now for PPR. Looking through some of these notable numbers, you have Houston as the worst team in the league for stopping their opponents from scoring. So you may have a high-scoring game with this. Depends on how much scoring can happen between the two of them. You have a passing rank of 8 here for Houston, while Seattle is the worst team at stopping the pass. They also have a pretty bad allowed scoring rank, so this total line might be a little low if they score a lot between each other. Seattle is, however, really good at stopping the rush. In terms of fantasy, you have Houston with a rank of 9, averaging 80.7 fantasy points per game, and Houston being one of the better ones with a rank of 5, averaging 90 fantasy PPR points per game. And just switching over to the averages here in case you need to look through this in more detail. The quarterbacks for this game are CJ Stroud and Sam Darnold, with CJ Stroud averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game and Sam Darnold averaging almost 17 fantasy points per game. Both of them have 3 interceptions on the season, with Sam Darnold also losing a fumble due to a sack. Flip back over to the averages again. These should match up pretty well with the team as a total, and of course the breakdown down here. And looking at the running backs, you have Nick Chubb and Kenneth Walker, with Nick Chubb averaging 9.7 fantasy PPR points per game, and Kenneth Walker averaging 11.4 average PPR points per game. There are no turnovers between the two running backs, and here's all your averages as well. The breakdowns are also down here with their rushing and receiving information. Looking at your number 1 wide receivers, you have Nico Collins and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Nico has an average of 14 fantasy PPR points per game, while Jackson gets an impressive 21.4 average fantasy PPR points per game. Both these guys have 1 turnover. And then switching over to the averages, this is what you get for them per game. Notably, Jackson gets 116 average receiving yards per game, so he's heavily utilized. And we see that down here, where he gets nearly half the team's receiving yards. Nico Collins also gets a pretty large share with 37% of the team's receiving yards. And then looking into the number 2 wide receivers, you do have Xavier Hutchinson because Christian Kirk is listed as out, and then Cooper Kupp. Xavier only gets about 7.1 average fantasy points per game, while Cooper gets 9 almost 2 average PPR points per game. Switching over to the averages and the breakdown week by week, and then we can see how they do on the team, with a pretty small share here for Xavier, but that's kind of expected being the 3rd wide receiver. That's probably about 7 or 8%, hard to see in there. And over here, unfortunately it's not listed, but that probably accounts for about 10%. And then looking into our tight ends finally, you have Dalton Schultz and AJ Barner. Schultz gets almost 8 average fantasy points per game, while Barner gets 10.3 average PPR points per game. Just moving over to the averages again, and their breakdown week by week. This comes out with about 16.3% of the receiving share for Dalton Schultz, so he's a little bit more of an integrated tight end than some other teams, which is like over here with AJ Barner and how he's incorporated with Seattle, where he only gets probably less than 5% of the receiving share, and that should be reflected through their receiving yards as well. So I would just look out for passing in this game. You know, you have a great passing rank from Seattle, a pretty good one from Houston. Houston is about average at stopping it. Seattle the worst at stopping it. They both allow a ton of points from their opponents, so it may be a high-scoring game. Houston's also not great at scoring themselves, so maybe they just get shut down by Seattle, but that's kind of what the numbers suggest here. So there you have it for our Monday night games. I hope that you found some of this useful. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you might want to see in the future. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.